Nearly 4 years ago, Gracie Mansion became my home. Who would have thought that a kid from South Jamaica, Queens, growing up with learning disabilities could one day become the mayor of the greatest city in the world? I cannot thank my mother enough for instilling in me the values she lived by. I hope every parent can use my life as an example for their child during challenging moments. Only in America can a story like this be told. When I was elected to serve as your mayor, I said these words: "This campaign was never about me. It was about the people of this city, from every neighborhood and background."
So look, I'm going to link this full Mayor Eric Adams announcement in the description of this video. I highly recommend that you guys actually watch it for yourself, because it actually opens with Mayor Eric Adams playing Frank Sinatra's "I Did It My Way" song as he's coming down the stairs, which I had to remove from the video in order to avoid a copyright claim. But the rumors are true. The news is actually fact-based. Mayor Eric Adams is absolutely done as New York City mayor. He is dropping out of the race, and this is due in large part to the fact that his campaign is in complete and utter shambles. Now, we talked about this for a while on this channel. In fact, when many people were saying that every candidate needed to drop out to get behind Eric Adams, I was one of the few people on the internet.com who was actually realistic about this, who pointed out that Mayor Eric Adams has the least likely chance of winning the mayorship, and this is because he is completely underwater due to the numerous scandals that he was in, and this weird situation with the Trump administration where the case ended up getting dropped against him, which, by the way, was a bribery case and, of course, a campaign finance violation case, was not going to help him. He was polling behind the Republican, behind Andrew Cuomo, and, of course, behind the communist Islamist Zohran Mamdani. So there was no way, even if all the candidates dropped out, that Eric Adams was going to pick up enough support in order to become the mayor of New York City again. The guy blew it. He's an absolute goofball, and nobody should be surprised about this particular outcome. And this is what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
And yet, despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. I hope that over time, New Yorkers will see this city thrive under our leadership, and that policies we put in place should be continued and expanded.
So what Mayor Eric Adams is alluding to right there is the fact that in New York City elections, we actually have small donor public financing sort of matching, which of course Eric Adams' campaign was denied this last go around. And the reason why he got denied this matching funds thing is due to the fact that he had a scandal that he was indicted for, where he was essentially scamming the city out of these funds. Because the way this basically works is that if you get about $250 or lower in terms of contributions, the city of New York, aka the taxpayers, will actually give you matching funds to make that $1,000, or I believe they'll give you $1,000 for those small dollar donations. So essentially, it's a 4x match in order to kind of balance the scales, allegedly, and make it easier for people to run for election when they don't have a lot of money. And if you guys will remember, one of the things that Eric Adams was indicted for was apparently a bunch of different Turkish figures were donating money to him in the exact proper amount to get the maximum match, and that ended up defrauding the city of New York throughout years of about $10 million in matching campaign funds. So despite the fact that Mayor Eric Adams this go around went to the New York City campaign board and said the following:
"Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?"
In reality, they were going to put a lot more scrutiny on the money that he was raising, and they decided not to award him those funds. And this effectively ended up killing his campaign, even more so than the fact that his campaign was not going anywhere in the first place due to the fact that there was numerous corruption scandals in his administration, including personal corruption scandals that Mayor Eric Adams was facing. And one of my favorite ones is when Eric Adams was actually raided by the FBI, and he said that he didn't have his phone on him, and because he's the mayor of the city of New York, they did not conduct a search on him at that period of time. But then when Mayor Eric Adams turned over his phone the next day, they had discovered that he changed his PIN code that evening from a 4-digit PIN code to a 6-digit PIN code, supposedly to stop his staffers from deleting crucial evidence, which again is very odd for him to say. But then when they asked for the PIN code, Mayor Eric Adams, in his infinite genius, decided to say that he forgot the code that he had just changed his phone to.
Who would have thought that a kid from South Jamaica, Queens, growing up with learning disabilities could one day become the mayor of the greatest city in the world?
So when Mayor Eric Adams talks about growing up as a kid with a learning disability that became the mayor of the city of New York, I don't think he quite overcame that learning disability, if I'm being perfectly honest. Now, of course, people want to know how this impacts the overall race for mayor, and the thing that people need to understand is that the early polling indicates that this is not that much of an impact. Sure, Andrew Cuomo's numbers go up a little bit, but according to the polling, it appears that Zoran Mamdani actually holds a 14-point lead over Andrew Cuomo. However, we have to see how this plays out a little bit more, because it's one thing for voters to think about a hypothetical Eric Adams dropout of the race. It's another thing for us to actually see where that support ends up going, but it's also crucial for people to understand that Eric Adams was only polling at 7% of the electorate at the time that that race went down. So if he ends up giving all of his support to Andrew Cuomo, none of it goes to Sliwa, none of it goes to Mamdani, that still will not close the gap. And this has led a lot of people to say that Sliwa has to drop out next. And the reason for this is because people believe that Andrew Cuomo is the only person who can come within striking distance of Mamdani in order to prevent this socialist from taking office. And again, it shows us the absolute shambles that the Democratic Party is in, because on the one hand, you have Andrew Cuomo, history of corruption, all sorts of other problems, and then on the other hand, you have Mamdani, a socialist, so inherently corrupt, somebody who's running on giving illegal aliens $100 million in attorneys in order for them to fight against deportation cases, and of course, all these other stupid, ridiculous policies that are going to be absolute boondoggles that he wants to pay for by raising taxes on what he says right now is the rich, but in reality, because you need statewide permission for the specific taxes he's saying that they're going to raise right now, he's going to raise taxes on everybody. He's going to drive businesses away, and he's proposing a bunch of crazy, stupid boondoggle policies, like the fact that he wants the public sector to build most of the housing.
I already told you about my commitment to freeze the rent for every single rent-stabilized tenant. That covers about half of all New York City renters. But what about the other half? We need more housing. A lot more. As mayor, I'll build 200,000 new, permanently affordable, union-built, rent-stabilized homes over the next 10 years, tripling what we're currently set to build. Any 100% affordable project gets fast-tracked. No more pointless delays. We're going to unleash the public sector.
And by the way, we know what the goal is that Mamdani has, which is essentially for the government to take more control over the housing market, despite the fact that New York City's biggest landlord is already the city of New York.
Go further toward the Vienna model. We'll have to go beyond the market. We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do. and we have history to guide us.
So yeah, Mamdani is an absolute disaster. He's completely pissed, but unfortunately, it looks like the city of New York is destined to elect an Islamicist, terrorist-supporting socialist to be the mayor, because the Democrats' only other alternative that they put forward was former Governor Andrew Cuomo. And in fact, Governor Kathy Hochul has recently endorsed Mamdani, again, selling out because she has a tough gubernatorial race ahead of her, trying to get that endorsement from him. And it's an absolutely pathetic display. And we see Mamdani is really angry about this. So maybe his internal numbers are different from the polling that we see publicly.
You know, it is something that has been rumored for quite some time that this would be the month, this would be the week, this would be the day. And today we've finally seen it. Yet it is also an encapsulation of so much of what has characterized Eric Adams' mayorality, is decisions at the behest of Donald Trump and his billionaire donors.
Trump bad. Trump bad. Trump bad.
But again, unless some other miracles end up happening and breaking in favor of either Sliwa or Andrew Cuomo, in reality, it looks like Mamdani is going to win this election with the plurality of the voters. Now, make no mistake about it, if Mamdani wins, things are going to get absolutely terrible. The guy is a defund the police type of candidate. He wants to create a whole separate department of social workers in order to interact with criminals. And as we saw under Bill de Blasio, when these policies were undertaken, along with a bunch of statewide terrible policies like bail reform, less is more, and raise the age, by the way, policies that Zohran Mamdani at the statewide level, when he was actually showing up for work, which was less than 50% of the time, fought to preserve, crime ended up spiking in New York City. We saw a 46% increase in homicides year over year in the city of New York, which is the greatest year over year increase in the history of the city. And Mamdani has made it clear that he wants to take away funding from the police. He wants to get rid of overtime, stop hiring new officers in order to fill the recruitment gap, and direct it to this Department of Social Services, which is going to be an absolute disaster. It's going to be terrible in the city of New York, and hopefully Mamdani, the one silver lining if he wins, ends up driving away support for Democratic Socialists across the country due to how disastrous he is. But the thing is, typically it doesn't really work that way, because we thought the same thing would be true of Brandon Johnson. And while his approval ratings are in the absolute toilet, the fact is that didn't stop Mamdani from overwhelmingly winning the Democratic primary.
When a person was shot doors from my house, I realized how important my crusade is of removing illegal handguns off the streets of New York. Hi, I'm New York State Senator Eric Adams, and for 22 years I wore a bulletproof vest and stood on the street corners and protected children and families in the city of New York. I'm asking you to join me in this crusade of removing illegal handguns off our streets and out of our homes.
Now, with all that being said, I think it would be wonderful if we decided to say our farewells to Mayor Eric Adams, and I could think of no better video for us to show in order to give as an example of how goofy Eric Adams was than when Eric Adams was explaining to parents out there how to search the home for illegal guns and illegal drugs, because that happens to be one of the funniest videos of all time.
What I would like to show here is to empower parents on how to search a room inside their home. It's imperative that you should know what's inside your household. And no one can state that you can't search a room in your own home. You write the Constitution. There are no First Amendment rights inside your household.
So look, there is a lot of hilarious stuff in this particular video. First and foremost, we have the dramatic music, but one of the things that is always top of mind, in my opinion, is that Eric Adams, who is a police officer who would deal with the Fourth Amendment multiple times, he's somebody who is a borough president, a state senator, and ultimately would become our mayor, is talking about how you write the Constitution in your own house, and there's no First Amendment protections from searches and seizures unless you say so. Again, we had a guy who became mayor of the city of New York, a guy who talks about a learning disability that he allegedly overcame, not knowing, despite years on the police force, that it is the Fourth Amendment that protects against search and seizures, not the First Amendment. Again, how stupid can you be?
So if you come to a room like this, you can start out, I always recommend to start out in a periodic fashion so you'll be used to going through the room to look at the various items in the room. You can look in the jewelry box. A jewelry box of this nature, maybe a simple jewelry box, but if you look through it closely, you don't know what your child may be hiding. For instance, a gun could be hidden, a small caliber weapon could be hidden inside a jewelry box. Look at the various colognes and perfumes and photos and pictures. You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations, look through it to see what exactly is your child carrying in addition to a book. Something simple as a crack pipe, a used crack pipe. Could he have found it on the street? That's quite possible. But this is a discussion piece where you should start speaking with him to find out what is he doing with it and the whole use of drugs. This invokes conversations. Look at picture frames and behind them, cameras. Try to determine what's taking place. Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets. What does that mean to find bullets? Does it mean your child is carrying a gun? No. Where there's smoke, there's possible fire.
I genuinely love this. I love everything about it. The fact that he's finding bullets, the fact that he's finding a crack pipe, the fact that all these different various things are just in and around the premises. And this is meant to be a legitimate instructive video for you parents out there on how to search your child's area in order to figure out if they have guns or weapons. And I also love when he plants drugs in a baby doll's butt and then pulls them out.
As simple as a baby doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs.
And of course, when Mayor Eric Adams finds a gun, a firearm, in a pillow, and then says it's a conversation piece.
Run your hands over the pillows and see if you feel anything that's unusual. Like a pillow like this where the button is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I would reach in, see what it is. This one could be hidden inside a pillow, a gun. Maybe something that you'll think that can't be hidden there, but it can. And what happens not only when the person who is carrying this illegal gun is in possession of it, but also a child that comes into the room and plays on the bed, they find this gun. Let me tell you what a child would do. A child would take this gun, and because the trigger pull is so hard, they normally take the gun and they point it in their direction to pull down on it. So many gun accidents take place merely because a child discovers a gun in the room and believes it's a toy and they play with the gun.
Again, A+ stuff, first class all the way. Mayor Eric Adams, there's rumors that he's going to be the ambassador to Saudi Arabia. I don't know why he's not the ambassador to Turkey. They were the nation that was allegedly bribing him. But if he doesn't want to do that, he definitely has a career on SNL.
Just look and see what's inside your bookcases. It could be more than just books. Perfect place to hide cocaine or other illegal substance inside the room.
He should go for it. He would be the funniest person on that show in decades, and I think we would all appreciate it. So yeah, while we will examine the polling numbers when they refresh, when we see how people react to the new status quo a little bit later, but as of right now, I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. Does this actually change anything? Do you think Cuomo can overtake Mamdani? Do you think that the socialism will be so bad in the city of New York that it will actually drive away other candidates from running in this direction? Again, all your thoughts down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Mayor Eric Adams dropping out and Mamdani getting pissed about it. Till next time.